Turn now to Luke chapter 7, verse 11 through 16. Luke chapter 7, verse 11 through 16. Say amen once you have it. It says these words, "And it came to pass the day after that he went into the city called Nain, and many of his disciples went with him, and much people. Now when he came nigh to the gate of the city, behold, there was a dead man carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and much people of the city was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and said unto her, Weep not. And he came and touched the bier, and they that bare him stood still. And he said, Young man, I say unto thee, arise. And he that was dead sat up, and began to speak, and he delivered him to his mother. And there came a fear on all, and they glorified God, saying, that a great prophet is risen up among us, and that God has visited his people." May the Lord add a blessing to the reading and hearing of his word. Amen. I want to preach from the subject today, dead on arrival. Dead on arrival. Brothers and sisters, there was recently a movie that came out called The Hunger Games. The Hunger Games is based on a popular book in which many people have read. But the moral of the story is the Hunger Games is about people who offer their children as what they call tribute. Tribute can be translated as sacrifice. They offer their children as tribute or as sacrifice in a game called the Hunger Games. This is when children that are selected are handpicked, and they are supposed to go and try to survive to the very end. The child that survives to the very end is the winner of the Hunger Games. This is not mere survival. The children are supposed to take each other out. And the way people take them out is the children have what's called sponsors to make sure certain children make it and certain children don't. And as I'm watching the movie Hunger Games and watching as children kill children, and as people watch it on television and sponsor certain children and don't sponsor others, I can't help but see how even in today's society, sometimes art represents life. For it is, as we see now every day, it is survival of the fittest. It seems as though children now are in a game of killing each other. It seems as though now more than ever, it is as if we're watching a bad episode of the Hunger Games on TV. How many times have we watched the news and saw children killing other children for senseless reasons? All because you got mad at somebody, all because somebody told you to do it. And we find, here it is, that people will give one group one thing and another group something else. Sometimes it's amazing how they bring in drugs and guns to the hood, while you bring other people education and scholarships. It is amazing how it is you can sponsor one, but give the other ones the things you need to kill each other. Now, all you got to do, if you want to shoot somebody, you can go to your local store and get a gun. It doesn't require anything at all. And we sit here and we continue to watch it. Here it is, as your children are living day by day just trying to survive. Isn't it amazing now? Every time you look at it, all we see now, instead of seeing college graduates, we're starting to see more caskets. We're supposed to be lifting up our young people, but instead, here it is, we find ourselves burying them. And it used to be a time where we knew where the group of kids came from. But here it is, now death doesn't have an address. Doesn't have a neighborhood. Matter of fact, doesn't matter who your mama and your daddy was. Doesn't matter if you were educated or uneducated. Sometimes our young people are getting killed and they didn't have anything to do with it. And we keep talking about it as if, it's okay. We keep watching it on the news and saying, somebody should do something about that, but nobody is doing anything. And see, we think when we talk about stuff that something happens. But nothing just happens, people of God. Nothing just happens. You got to stop just talking about it or shaking your head about it. And here it is, and learn how to do like the old folks did and give it over to the Lord. Now, I need somebody in the house that recognizes that things are so bad right now, there is nothing a president, white or black, can do about it. I don't have no help in the house. There is nothing, no matter who you put in office, though we got to put the right folks in, no matter who you put in, there's some things that are beyond their control. Some things we got to learn how to take to Jesus. And as we watch countless children being buried every day, as we watch young children, babies that don't even have a chance at life, being put in the ground, the question is, how did we get so far gone? How did we let it get to this point? So you got to see this. Because now, more than ever, it's bad enough for struggling single parents to raise a child. But to have to raise a child and watch that child being taken away is something that every parent fears. But every child faces every day. Going to school is not just to get your education. You got to know how to survive now. And you worried about wondering why they ain't taking no backpack to school. It's because any minute they might have to run. Any day could be their day. And you are worrying about that every day in a place where you're supposed to be learning. Simply leaving your child at home can be hazardous to your health. Because there are other people that are left at home as well. And you know what happens with an idle mind. So they find themselves engaged with folks and people, young people, that don't have nothing to lose. And see, young people understand, when you deal with people with nothing to lose, it's a bad situation. Because when people have nothing to lose and you have everything to gain, you will lose what you have. Sometimes even losing your life. And I've come to tell you today, even at St. James, there's some young people that I pray for every day. Because I recognize, here it is, you think that the street has something for you. As if your house isn't good enough, you feel like the street wants you. Here it is, the street hasn't taken care of anybody in life. Ought to have at least 5 witnesses in the house. All of us thought the street was better than your house. But what you found out is when the street wanted to get rid of you, you had to run back home. See, and you got to see this because what the hurt is that's going on across the board is because young people find themselves making decisions, temporary decisions that's going to cause them permanent damage. Anything that's quick and everybody that's says they're your friends, you got to be careful. Because sometimes they'll sacrifice you to save their own self. So today as we look at this, sometimes we get to a place, unfortunately, that you feel like your child is too far gone. Sometimes you feel as though there's no hope for your child. Sometimes, believe it or not, we give up on our children. And we start saying things to suggest that there'll never be anything. You know those words you put on them? You're going to be just like your daddy. And here it is. We almost put death on them without giving them a chance to live. But that devil is a lie today. I've come to tell you that today is the day that we've got to give our children, yes, our children, back to God. Any witnesses in the house that we've got to give our children back to God? Because you know, grown folks, as grown as you are, it wasn't until your parents put you in the hands of the Lord that your life was changed. Don't sit here and act cute today. How many of you know you used to be something else yourself? You thought you knew everything there was to know yourself, and found out that if it had not been for God protecting you and providing a shield around you, you wouldn't be here right now. So as we look at Luke chapter 7 verse 1, Luke chapter 7 verse 1 through 10 talks about a centurion's faith where he goes seeking Jesus, and when he gets to Jesus, the centurion says, Jesus, I have a servant that is sick. He said, but I recognize who you are. And he said, I'm not even worthy for you to come to my house. He says, but if you just speak the word, see, and you got to learn to have some outrageous faith. He said, if you would just speak the word, you don't have to go to where he is, but I recognize here it is, my healing is one word away. I believe somebody in the house know what I'm talking about. You ain't got to come to my house. You ain't got to come to my job, but I believe if you just speak the word, things are going to change. Jesus says, I have never found a faith so great as yours. He said, you got great faith. He said, so I'm going to speak the word. And watch this. And while the man was there, somebody else came running and said, your servant is healed. See, and I'm believing today that there's something that's going to be done today that's going to change people at your house. Y'all missed that? I believe that God can speak a word today that can change somebody that's already locked up. I believe God can speak a word today that no matter where your children may be, that God is going to change. If you have any believers in the house, that one word can change the way we see things. Before you get home, I believe God can work a miracle. Any believers in the house, before you leave the house of worship, God can turn your situation around. Before you leave this house, God can change it. Here it is. So now we find that Luke chapter 7 verse 11 says, and the day after. And the day after, he has just experienced great faith. The day after, he is walking towards Nain. He's walking towards Nain. And now Jesus has been on the road. And see, when you're on the road like this, you're going to meet a lot of different people. We've been on the road all month. As you're on the road, they are heading towards Nain. Jesus has people behind him that are there because they saw what he did. They saw how many miracles he worked. And every time he worked a miracle, people start following him. Isn't it amazing how people don't follow you till you do something for them? He said, as they are walking, he has gathered a crowd that is grateful for what he has done. As he's walking towards Nain, there's another group walking out of Nain. So here it is. You got to see this. He's walking towards Nain. There's another group leaving Nain. Can I show you this? What we find, first of all, is a definite contradiction. Definite contradiction. We see Jesus coming and a young man going. Right? Y'all get that? We see the light coming, but darkness going. All right, y'all see on guard. We see hope coming, but despair leaving. All right, here it is. We see life coming, but death going. We see victory coming, but defeat going. And see, everybody in the house knows sometimes you can have joy coming, but weeping going. Have you ever been in a place in your life where you couldn't tell whether you were coming or going? Well, I just need some folks in the house that's ever been in a place in your life where I couldn't tell whether I was coming. They're on their way out with the young man while Jesus is on the way. See, sometimes somebody is there right now. If you feel like you are on your way out, but here's the good news, is that Jesus is on the way. And can somebody praise God even right there, that just when I was about to give up and throw in the towel, here comes Jesus. Just when I felt like I couldn't, I don't have no help in the house. Just when I felt like I couldn't make it another day, here comes. Anybody know that he may not come when you want him? I said, anybody know that he may not come when you want him? But he's always. You got optimism coming, pessimism going. There's one group that's excited about what's about to happen, but the other group crying over what has already happened. Even in the church right now, we got some groups, two different groups. We got one group that believes God is coming. But here it is, you got another group that feels like after all I've been through, this is it for me. And see, we can act all sanctimonious today as you want, but all of us have been in a place in life where you felt like, God, I don't know whether I'm coming or going. Here it is, have you ever been in a place in your life you done fussed at your children as much as you could? You done told them right for wrong as much as you could? And the more right you tell them, the more wrong they do? Have you ever tried to give them everything that they needed, but yet they still act like you ain't give them nothing? I don't have at least 5 more witnesses in the house. You ever gave everything you had, worked 3 and 4 jobs just to pay the bills, and they got the nerve to sit and tell you that they won't even do what you asked them to do? I don't know whether I'm coming or going. Seems like the more I teach them, the worse they get. This woman now is leaving Nain because my worst fear has happened. Here it is. The one thing I held on to, I now have to let go of. And see, we got to see this woman. We got to see this woman as now they are leaving the city. She has a group too. She has a group, here it is, that are there just for sympathy. You got to see this. And see, all of us find ourselves in that group with her. It is not your child, but here it is, we sympathize with her. And here it is, we will cry with her because it's not us. See, there's a lot of folks that come around you when everything going wrong. You ever noticed that the greatest party invitation you can ever give is for a pity party? It's easy to find people that are there with you because everything going wrong. The reason why they can be with you when everything going wrong is because, truth be told, we going through hell ourselves. Sometimes it's easy to cry with other people instead of crying for yourself. Matter of fact, sometimes we got some professional crying. And you got to be careful that you don't get it twisted. Everybody that cry with you ain't there with you. Because there's some folks in the group that's sitting there saying, I told you so. Some people just heard what happened and then they're being nosy. So she has one group, but Jesus got another. Jesus is coming. They're going. Here it is. They're going to a new city. Visitors are coming while they're having a home going. As we see now, watch this, there's a definite contradiction. Next thing you see is that you got to deal with compassion. Watch this. It says, and when Jesus saw her, he had compassion on her. When he saw her, he had compassion on her. Listen to this. When he sees this woman, his heart goes out to her. Watch this. When he sees her, he sees her. What you got to know is that no matter what you're going through, God sees you. That's good news for somebody in the house. Is that no matter what you may be going through, God sees you. But then watch this, not only does he see her, he sees her hurt. She is a widow, which means she don't have nothing left. And I'm wondering what I'm talking to in the house. Have you given everything you had? And when you're giving it your all, you find yourself with nothing left? Oh, there's some empty folks in the house right now. When you have given the best that you can, she is a widow, which says her son customarily was supposed to take care of her. He didn't even have a chance. She's left with nothing. He sees her hurt. He sees her heart. See it is. Before he even had a chance at life, now his life is gone. Look at this. It doesn't say how he got killed, how he died. It just says he's dead. A lot of times we want to know the wrong question. When you hear somebody has died, the first question we got is how they died. First question we ask, how they died. Does it matter? Are you going to do the autopsy? All we know is that he's dead. Listen to this. Jesus is now seeing her and he moves on her behalf. Can I show you this? This is the only miracle that takes place where nobody asks for help. This is the only miracle that takes place, here it is, where you didn't have to have faith. Watch this. The woman never asked Jesus for help. It never said she had great faith. But when Jesus saw her, he moved on her behalf. Now, I'm talking to somebody in the house. You ain't got the greatest faith. You at a point in your life, you don't even know how to ask for help. So every now and then, even when you don't have faith for yourself, even when you don't know how to ask for help, Jesus say, this one is on me. Now, I need some folks in the house that say, God, I don't know how to ask for it. I don't even know what I need, but God, I want you to say, this one is on me. Sometimes you get in a place in your life where your children, you don't even know whether you're coming or going, and God said, for all the hurt you've been through, this one is on. I ought to have some witnesses in the house. God, I praise you that when I couldn't even ask for it myself, he said, this one, I see your hurt, but this one, I know you lost everything. This one, I know you don't know who to turn to, but this one is on. Look at this. This one is on me. See, we're in a day and time now, so many kids are dying, and ain't nobody even trying to ask God for help. He said, because you won't even ask for it yourself, he said, sometimes I got to do it myself. I'm going to step in myself. See, sometimes he waits for us to do it. But if you want the job done right, if you want it done right, sometimes you got to do it yourself. Because he has compassion, that means his heart connects with her heart. I see how bad it is for you, so I'm going to move on your behalf. How many of you know God, every now and then, God will stop waiting on you and he will move on your behalf? I have a few more witnesses in the house that know every now and then God will move on your behalf. He deals with compassion. He said, this one is on me. I'm going to do this. Watch this pro bono. I hear this. I know you can't even afford to do it. I know you don't have what it takes. I know you ain't even been in church that long. This is your first day here. But watch this. Every now and then, I'm going to do something on your behalf. So it says that Jesus now moves with compassion. Watch this. When Jesus deals with compassion, we see a death cancellation. And I know you in here because you got bills due, and I know you ain't got no money, and you want debt cancellation. But can you praise God that he'll look beyond your faults and see your needs? It says when Jesus sees her, he moves with compassion and says two words. He said, weep not. Now, I don't know who I'm talking to in the house, but I just got two words for you. When Jesus shows up, there's two words I can tell you. Weep not. I know you've been crying midnight tears. I know you ain't had no sleep all week, but here is two words I got for you. Weep not. Why? Because Jesus is on the scene. So can somebody praise God that when Jesus shows up, I don't have to cry no more. When Jesus shows up, I don't have to shed no more tears. Weep. He speaks to her, but walks to the casket. He speaks to her, walks to the casket, and the thing that the boy has been stuck in, it said that Jesus touched it. Now see, for the super spiritual folks, what you got to recognize is there's some miracles that take place when Jesus touches you. But sometimes he don't have to touch you. He'll touch what you in. And the very thing that's been holding you down has got to let you go. Now here it is. Is there anybody in the house that knows that when Jesus steps to the scene, whatever has been holding you hostage, whatever you've been stuck in all your life, whatever you've been going through, whatever it is, when Jesus touches it, he's got to let you go. Somebody ought to praise the name of God, that he'll give you a death cancellation. It is. When Jesus touches the casket, he cancels the trip. Y'all still sitting there. Y'all hear this? You know, whenever there is a funeral procession, everybody else stops. Whenever there's a funeral procession, there's escorts. Everybody else has to stop. But when Jesus shows up, we don't have to stop. He stopped the funeral. All right. Can anybody recognize the fact that you were supposed to be dead a long time ago? But Jesus showed up and literally stopped the funeral. Here it is. The boy was dead on arrival. But no matter when he gets there, it's always on time. He stops the funeral. Watch this. It says when Jesus touches the casket, the pallbearer stops. We on our way to put him away. People crying all around us. But when Jesus shows up, everything stops. Can you praise God that there were some things that was supposed to take you out, but Jesus showed up and everything had to stop? People were making plans over your life, but Jesus showed up and everything had to stop. And I'm talking to some folks that know he showed up for you. Anybody know he showed up for you? It says, the pallbearers stop. They're carrying the casket on their way to the cemetery. On their way to the Holy Gate Cemetery. And they say, hold on, something just changed. See, and the news has told you he was dead. Society keeps telling you he's dead. Your family and friends keep telling you it's too late, he's dead. And you start even believing it yourself, he got to be dead. But here it is, when God shows up, it says, watch this, he touches the casket. That stops the process. But then he speaks to the boy, which starts the progress. He says, young man, I say unto you. See, and I'm speaking to some young men right now. I'm speaking to some young ladies right now. He's speaking directly to you. I know you thought you were cool, calm, and collected. I know you thought you had life figured out. I know you thought you knew everything. But here it is. You were heading towards death's door. Death has your number, but God has a way of canceling your death. Somebody knows that God will keep the death angel away from you. Young man, I say unto you. Young woman, I say unto you. Young man, I say, I'm talking to you. Get up from where you are. Now, I got to show you this. Because Jesus now speaks to the young man. And what you got to see, the last thing is we see deliverance and conversation. Jesus speaks to the young man and says, young man, get up. Listen to this. Jesus does something that nobody else thought about doing. He spoke life. See, I got to tell you this. Be careful of the words you use right now. Don't speak death on your children. I ought to have some help in the house. Be careful of the words you put on your children. He speaks life. What's this? He said simply, young man, get up. I know that they put you on a suit and told you it was over. I know that they got flowers everywhere. I know that they got you in a nice casket. I know that your family came from out of town. But here it is, it ain't over yet. I know the news said you wouldn't make it to be 16, but get up. I know the school said you ain't even fit to live, but get up. I know your family said you ain't nothing, but get up. And on his own, watch this, the boy gets up on his own. The boy gets up on his own. See, you've been worrying and trying to figure out how to get him up. When you speak life, he'll get up on his own. See, the problem is we try to scare him to death. See, telling them what the chances are they're going to be killed and all that, they already know the cons. But what they need to know is the pros. I know what the chances are, but give me a reason to live. Anybody need that right now? I know what the end result could be, but give me something to live for. It says that the young man gets up on his own. And watch this. And when the boy gets up, he gets up doing something he's never done. He gets up talking. How many parents in the house, raise your hand if you have a communication problem with your child? Lift your hands now. You can't talk to them. They won't talk to you. They won't tell you what's going on. There's more of y'all than that, but that's cool. I got you. Here it is. There's something happens when you speak life to them. It opens up conversation. See, when you always nagging and ragging on them, talking about how bad they are, we don't have nothing to talk about. See, and what I'm trying to do is prevent you from being that person on the news talking about, I didn't know it would happen to my child. Watch this. He gets up talking. Because what happens is, Jesus makes him feel like he is somebody. Everybody in the world keeps telling me I'm a nobody. Everybody else has given up on me. But when was the last time you said an encouraging word to your child? See, the negativity, what you got to recognize, the reason they go to the streets instead of going to your house is because the streets at least build each other up. Y'all gonna be quiet on me like that? At least on the street. Oh, y'all know how, matter of fact, you ain't been that long off the street. Whenever you go somewhere and you see your friends, they act like you the greatest thing that ever happened. And then you go home and you got a parent looking at you like they could care less. I know you're tired. I know you've done the best you can do. But don't give up just yet. Because no matter what the situation is, it ain't over till God says, there's some grown folks that know you were supposed to die. If you know death had your name, lift your hands even now. If you know I was in the wrong places at the wrong time with the wrong folks, supposed to be dead, but God canceled. When I came to church today, here it is, I felt dead even now. I was dead on arrival. But God spoke to me. Anybody know God will speak directly? Young people, God is speaking to you right now. I believe by the power of God that he's speaking to you right now. Whatever you find yourself in, don't worry, God can touch it and let you free. Don't let nobody tell you you stuck in it. Don't let nobody tell you you can't get out. Because if God comes to your rescue, whatever has you bound, God can set you free. And the reason I know he can set you free is because he did it for me. And I have a couple ex-communicators right here, some ex-things in the house, some ex-prostitutes, some ex-drug dealers in the house, some ex-things in the house that recognize if it had not been for the Lord, who was yet on my side, I wouldn't be here today. I should have been dead. I'm not saying that as a cliche. No, I mean literally. Where I was and who I was with should have been dead. But God canceled it because he still had more work for me to do. Every young person in this house, listen to me well. Whatever the plot of the enemy has been, I cancel death right now. And I speak life to you right now. I said we're canceling death right now. The enemy will not do you any. Matter of fact, when you know you are covered by the blood of the Lamb. More than that, we've got to be a people that embrace our young people. Watch this. Jesus gives him back to his mother. When God gives you a second chance with your child, I don't have no help in the house. When God gives you another opportunity with your child, don't do the same thing you did the first time, because that didn't work. God is giving you another chance. Now the question is, what are you going to do? Now that you put them in his hands, what are you going to do when he puts them back in yours?